Good evening. I am Thomas Dobson with the Oxford Centre for Methodism and Church History. I am their Collections, Digitisation and Research Officer. This is our campus on the edge of Oxford with the Dreaming Spires over the right of our spire there. So this evening I'm going to be talking to you about a handful of our artworks which span 300 years of Methodist and wider social history. The first here is not this a brand plucked out of the fire. It depicts the rescue of John Wesley, the so-called founder of Methodism, from a fire at his childhood home, Epworth Rectory in Lincolnshire. The fire took place on the 9th of February 1709, and this is a mythical depiction of that event, his miraculous rescue from fire, aged just 6. It was recorded by Henry Purley Parker in 1840, following a depiction of a rescue from water, which is in the Lifeboat Museum. On the right, in the bottom, you have his father, Samuel Wesley, the rector of Epworth, praying as all good Christians would for the saviour of his youngest son. And then to his right, there is his wife and mother of John, Susanna, shielding the rest of her children from fire. Fire and imagery of fire continued to play a role in the depiction of John Wesley and his life. On the 24th of May, 1738, he said that his heart was strangely warmed, and this is the recording of his evangelical conversion, which led to the foundation of the Methodist Church. It is memorialised by the Aldersgate Flame in London. Created in 1840, this work has been recreated and reproduced several times over, with copies throughout both our collections and those worldwide, including at one of the 4 Methodist museums, Epworth Old Rectory, the newer rectory reproduced on the site of this one. This picture has hung in every headquarters of the Wesleyan and British Methodist Church since it was created. This depiction is one of the best known depictions of Wesley. It is also the youngest depiction of John from his lifetime. It depicts him in his clerical robes as a fellow of Lincoln College. He was appointed to this role on the 25th of March, 1726. He held the fellowship in post until 1735, when he headed for Georgia in the United States. He formally resigned from his fellowship in 1751 when he got married, but he referred to himself as a one-time fellow of Lincoln College, Oxford, until his death some 40 years later. Depicting him as an academic, there are 4 copies of this portrait in Britain. There is a copy at his former college, Lincoln College in Oxford. There is a copy at Wesley House, which is part of the University of Cambridge. There is a depiction in storage, having been at the former Wesley College, Bristol. And then this is our copy, which comes from Richmond College, and then the Methodist headquarters at 25 Marylebone Road. Carrying on with the academic theme, we reach our links here in Oxford to the Wesleyan Church and its academic life. This is a certificate, an illuminated manuscript produced for Charles Mansford, the first vice principal of the Wesleyan Normal Institution, which came to be better known as Westminster College. It was produced in 1889, following his retirement from the college, having served there from its foundation in 1851. Crucially for us, it is the earliest colour depiction of the college. We have an 1851 bird's eye view of the college, which appeared in the Illustrated London News, but this is both the first colour depiction and the first depiction of the front quad, or principal's quad. On the left, there are the principal's and vice principal's houses, later also the chapel's residence. And then on the right, there is the chapel, the dining hall, the library, the lecture theatre. As with all academic spaces, it changed frequently over time. Interestingly, from our point of view, this is one of the few depictions we have of this space before it was adapted and modernised between 1903 and 1910. Whilst at the college, the drawing master of Westminster College originally was James Smetham. Bequeathed in 2016, this depiction, Me and Jack, or as our catalogue calls it, Sarah Smetham and Baby John, depicts a mother with her firstborn child in a traditional virgin and child pose, even down to a flower in the hand of the mother, in this case, a rose. James and Sarah met at Westminster College in 1851, the year the college opened, first meeting on the 4th of July. In the family reminiscences, Sarah notes that it was about 4:30 in the afternoon. The children had gone home, and I was standing talking with Mr. Langler by one of the windows which commanded the school entrance when he, James, entered and crossed the playground, which was then near its completion. She then notes, I little thought I should one day know him so well. Art featured frequently throughout their marriage, with a depiction of their honeymoon residence in Eastbourne, adorably titled A Quiet Meadow, hung above the fireplace in Sarah's rooms until she died. This depiction is now also part of our Smetham collection. Woman with a Tambourine, similarly by James Smetham, is perhaps one of the more recognisable of our works. Smetham created paintings and drawings in all manner of sizes, varying from Women of the Crucifixion, which measures 130 by 95 centimetres, through to works that are smaller than a postage stamp. This work, depicting a woman or Irene with a tambourine, is only a square of 15 by 15 centimetres. It is often, perhaps because it looks most like the Pre-Raphaelites James is associated with, referred to as being one of the more popular images from his collection. This, The Rose of Dawn, is a watercolour on paper. It is one of two preparatory works we hold for a larger, complete Rose of Dawn, the latter of which is an oil panel. This work shows the depiction for both Smetham and other Pre-Raphaelite and 19th century artists between art and literature. The origin of its title was discovered in Smetham's hand beneath the watercolour during conservation and reframing in 2020-2021. A Tennyson quote, the full passage reads, "At last I heard a voice upon the slope, cry to the summit, is there any hope?" To which an answer pealed from that high land, but in a tongue no man could understand. And on the glimmering limit far withdrawn, God had made himself an awful Rose of Dawn. It is presumed, therefore, that this is the figure at the bottom of the hill, looking up towards the voice of God, tying in with Smetham's religious beliefs, and which he held firmly, teaching in Methodist classes and Sunday schools. Having shown you earlier one of the earliest depictions we have of Westminster College, this similarly depicts the front or principal's quad of Westminster College in London. It is a favourite of both staff and students, past and present, having hung in boardrooms and offices both in London and now in Oxford. It was funded by students and alumni, with the Union Society minutes for the time recording the why, but not the how, depicting one of the most catastrophic events in the college's life. It depicts the college as it was in March of 1944, when it was barraged by bombs. Hanging just around the corner, having been built just around the corner from the Houses of Parliament, it is no surprise that the college was bombed. Upsettingly for us, the college, despite removing its stained glass, left the remainder of its library, art collection and archives in the college chapel, which were then devastatingly destroyed. recollections from the time record how students and staff returning in the following October had to step over glass and craters in the quad. Created by John Piper, it is also one of our best known works, and he has cleverly used the gouache and chalk here to depict the college in ruin. Interestingly, however, the principal at the time, having viewed the college, described how he was resigned yet thankful the damage wasn't worse, although it's difficult to see how the damage could have been worse. Jumping now to our other half of our School of Education, we have a depiction of children learning to read and indeed playing with books. In 1948, an emergency teacher training college was established in the former code-breaking buildings at Bletchley Park. In the following years, the college, which became used to some form of finery, appointed Evelyn Dunbar as the artist in residence. She created a series of preparatory works, even going as far as to measure up the college dining hall for a large painting. Unfortunately, ill health prevented her from completing this mural, leaving us with only a series of sketches. It is perhaps worth noting, however, that this is more than several other works by Dunbar, completed or otherwise. In 1966, Bletchley Park College relocated from its home to the expansive site on the edge of a village called Wheatley, then in Buckinghamshire. Recognising its relocation from Bletchley and the lack of ties it remained there, it was renamed Lady Spencer Churchill College of Education, a name it held until the 1980s, having merged with Oxford Polytechnic in 1975. Oxford Polytechnic then became Oxford Brookes University in 1992, and the depiction and the campus are still held by the university. Having said about the lack of mural in the dining hall at Bletchley, Evelyn Dunbar went on instead to create 2 panels for the college. These panels are known as the Alpha and Omega panels and reference the college's crest and coat of arms. In my end is my beginning, the shield on the coat of arms depicting both the Alpha and Omega, the biblical concept. Created in 1957, these are among the last works created Dunbar prior to her early death in 1960. A Christian Scientist, she caught a cold and refused treatment, leading to her death. These panels are also among some of the larger works created by Dunbar for private institutions, and they still feature in the campus library. Following her death, the majority of Dunbar's studio was transferred to her family's home in Kent, and there it stayed undiscovered until an Antiques Roadshow comment led to it being removed from the attic. In 2015, following a display at Pallant House Gallery, the preparatory works for Alpha and Omega, a double-sided piece of paper, were purchased by the university. These now feature alongside Alpha and Omega and the Bletchley Park College works in the Bletchley Park College collection here at the university. In 2021, the centre here went on to purchase a further set of 22 of her sketchbooks. These were riddled with mould and damp and rust, depicting the fact they've spent the last 40 years in an outhouse. Following conservation, however, these works are now on display and have been since the centre organised and held the first academic conference on Evelyn Dunbar this past April. So that is a very brief and very quick run through our art collections here, both at the university and primarily at the Oxford Centre. In closing, I should give a few thanks to both my colleagues who have been throughout the chat here this evening. So Professor Bill Gibson, Doctors Peter Forsyth and Daniel Reed, our public engagement manager, who just shared our link in the chat function there. So if anyone wants to go and find out more about our art collections, please do. And I should also give a massive thanks to Jolliffe and the team at Art UK, who have both facilitated this talk this evening and continue to give us a great deal of help and support in sharing our art more widely. But as I say, thank you very much, and good evening from a warm and sunny Oxford.